Chapter 3 The Bones of God. For the first time that evening, Cassia dared to feel hope. It appeared as though Marion had planned and built toward this exact contingency. It was so nearly perfect, Cassia wanted to believe. She desperately needed to believe. Except, she suppressed a groan because she knew the truth. More than anyone here, including Marion, she was intimately familiar with the ceremonial requirements. There were reasons, after all, she'd spent years in preparation. It hadn't just been her. There'd been clergymen involved, sacred vows, a monastery that wasn't a rotting ruin. And even with all that, even under the most favorable circumstances, they'd failed to invoke the presence of her god. Looking up through the darkness, Marion said,
"I meant to tell you."
Which, of course, was a lie. They both knew Cassia would have argued against it. At the very least, she would have refused to come along.
Marion,
asked Cassia, trying to control her tone.
How long have you been planning this?
You misunderstand. It wasn't my idea.
Oh, who else stands to gain from any of this?
I mean, yes, this trip was my decision. That's on me. But the proposition that the ritual can be done differently.
What?
Asked Cassia, with growing concern. The woman nodded.
Stripped down to the essentials. Simple enough, a small group could do it.
There was so much wrong with the statement, Cassia didn't know where to begin. There were reasons the rites were performed as they were, unchanged since the time the gods had died. To suggest alterations wasn't only sacrilegious, it was downright dangerous. And yet, Cassia had to make herself pause. With their lives on the line, some risk was to be expected. They couldn't end up worse than they were right then, so... Was it possible her reaction was personal? Was she offended by the notion of a simplified ceremony because she wished it could have been her instead? Looming in the dark was a single what if. What if Cassia's ceremony had been modified the same way? Would she still have failed? Or would her dream have been that much easier to attain? That question, of course, could never be answered. She'd been given her chance, and wouldn't have another. So why was dropping this so damn hard? Cassia grit her teeth.
Do you think we can do it? Just the four of us?
To her frustration, Marion hesitated.
I thought Tenlin would be here.
Oh.
Thought Cassia. But she didn't have the strength to be angry or sad. At least not more than she was already.
Are we wasting our time then?
She asked in a dry monotone.
Should we skip ahead and start planning our escape?
Actually, I was thinking, hoping really, maybe you could figure it out? Most of the diagrams have already been completed.
Me?
Asked Cassia in alarm.
You think it's that simple?
The woman took a calming breath.
These notebooks, the theories therein. Your father wrote them.
Wait, what?
Asked Illyriel, speaking up for the first time. The girl didn't have many memories of Gendal, who'd died when the sisters were relatively young. Cassia gaped and needed a moment to find her voice.
Bullshit.
Marion gave a timid smile.
It's true.
But why haven't you... How did this...
I only found them recently. Honest. I didn't realize my husband held on to these. I thought they'd been burned.
Cassia narrowed her gaze.
But you knew about them.
Knew of them. Not what they contained.
You must have known enough to have reason to think they'd be destroyed.
A hunch, maybe. Some offhanded remarks when Belladon was alive. You remember how the two of them were? Your father and my husband? Back when both were training for ascendancy?
Cassia remembered, though she'd only been a young girl at the time. It was the beginning of a long relationship between families, though Belladon ascended and Gendal didn't. Instead of driving the families apart, even their deaths had paved the way for Marion to become Cassia's sponsor. At least, that's how she'd always thought of it. If there were secrets involved, heretical studies?
Can I see them?
Asked Illyrio. Cassia groaned.
Not now, Elle.
But
First, we need to find a safer place. And if anyone's going to read them, it's going to be me.
Just speaking these words sent a thrill down her spine. It was more than the chance to redeem her father. The thought of the work itself piqued her interest, so much that it made her rethink her future. If they ever made it out of this, perhaps she wasn't destined for the life of a mercenary. Perhaps she could be a ceremonial worker instead. At the moment, however, it was far too dark to read anything. Even if a scrap of wood was dry enough to burn, she wasn't convinced they should risk the light. Not with the door in the shape it was. The group needed to keep moving deeper into the cellar. For the first time, Cassia took note of their surroundings. She stood up, reaching blindly to avoid bumping her head. She then passed the girls and felt her way down the stairs. A horrible smell was coming from below, like mold and mildew. The wooden steps were moist and flexed beneath her weight.
Stay here,
said Cassia.
are we going to try it?
Asked her sister, without daring to come down.
The ritual, I mean.
We can't decide that yet. Maybe, if it's not too dangerous.
Dangerous?
I'll explain later.
If Father thought it was okay, then...
Just drop it, Elle. There's no way he planned for this specific scenario. We might not even have the requisite tools.
The girl was undeterred.
I have heard it said that the particulars don't determine success. It isn't the words of the ceremony that matter. Most of the details are for show, a way for men to demonstrate to the gods their conviction.
Cassia snorted, feeling offended.
So what are you saying? That my ceremony failed because of me? That I was the one without sufficient determination?
I'm not saying you lacked anything,
said Illyrio with a pause.
but maybe it wasn't the right kind.
Cassia shook her head, unable to believe it. She understood why her sister might want an explanation, some logic as to why their lives hadn't gone as planned. But sometimes there wasn't a reason. Sometimes reality dealt you a bad hand. Weren't the gods themselves, more specifically their horrifying deaths, proof of that? The further Cassia went, the more difficult it became to see. The dim light from above didn't stretch very far, and she was soon staring down through complete and utter black. Cassia took an exploratory step downward, with one hand in front and the other to the side, still holding her knife. To her best estimate, she should have been near the bottom, and she groped the stone walls in search of a lantern or a torch. Even as she did so, she felt foolish, realizing she'd find nothing flammable amid this moisture.
I'm sorry,
said her sister from the top of the stairs.
I'm not judging you, Kay. I don't know why our God didn't choose you. But that's no reason to believe he won't hear us now.
Cassia frowned, but didn't respond. She didn't have the heart to speak her mind, that she didn't think the gods heard anything. At least, not anymore. She knew better, though, than to destroy what hope her sister had left. As Cassia's fingers continued down the wall, the stones became increasingly moist and slimy. Sure enough, her next step plunged into water. She'd been expecting it, but gave a low gasp nonetheless.
What's wrong?
Asked Illyrio. Committing her weight onto that foot, Cassia felt the dark liquid squeeze around her boot. The pressure was tight and uniform, and for a moment, the leather seemed to keep the water out. The stitchings, however, weren't so tight as they'd once been, and the water seeped through, cold as ice. She groaned.
It's just water. Don't come down.
You're leaving us?
Moaned Chisandral.
I'm taking a look, is all.
Taking a breath, Cassia proceeded down the next step and felt the water rise to her knee. She tried not to think where the rainwater might have come from, and how much was mixed with abyssal blood. Her mind was wearing thin, and it was difficult not to imagine leathery hands beneath the surface, pawing at her legs, pulling her under. This had more to do, she suspected, with the invisible terrors above than with any realistic expectation of danger. Even now, she felt pent-up energy coursing through her muscles like a dull throb. She explored with the toe of her boot. Gingerly, she found where the step ended and the floor dipped again.
It's getting deep,
she announced. For all she knew, the stairs might keep going until the water passed her head. After two more, the chilled water circled her hips, soaking completely through her stockings and breeches. She could feel her legs growing stiff as her heat and strength were sapped away. The cold didn't feel like a cellar at all, but a subterranean vault. From above came a sudden pounding, and the girls shrieked. Cassia swiveled in surprise and nearly slipped. Her stumble, however, confirmed she'd reached the bottom. The wooden doors rattled and banged again. It wasn't the sound of a wild creature, but she couldn't be sure. She gazed up at the thin cracks of light, broken by the faint silhouettes of Marion and the girls, and another figure besides, just beyond the door.
"Is anyone down there?"
yelled a man. His voice conveyed concern, but not desperation. Cassia took this as a good sign. The last thing they needed was for the men to have brought the creatures back to their location. Still, the doors made it impossible for Cassia to identify who it was. She supposed it didn't matter. As she gazed up through the darkness, she felt as though a weight had been lifted. She didn't dare hope to find all the men, but even with one, she'd no longer have to do this alone.
Open it,
she said, clutching her knife more tightly. The girls hesitated.
Can anyone hear me?
He yelled.
Open it.
She repeated, debating if she should return up the stairs.
We can hear him. There aren't creatures nearby. Not at the moment,
she thought.
It's stuck,
said Illyrio.
Chessie, help!
The girls grunted in effort, wrenching the bar from the battered door. Not a second later, the latch was pulled from outside, and fresh moonlight cascaded down the steps. A man peered down, regarding each of them in turn.
Over here,
he said to someone else outside. As he turned, there was no mistaking Captain Velt's armor.
You came back!
Exclaimed Chisandrel.
No,
Said Illyrio.
Velt wasn't with them. He never left.
Looking up, she added.
We thought you were dead.
wasn't with whom?
He asked, his voice growing stern.
The others left?
A second man limped into view behind him.
I told you,
He said, wincing in pain.
those were tracks back there, leaving the village.
Roke?
Breathed Chisandrel in recognition. Velt raised a hand to his forehead, trying to contain his disbelief and irritation.
They just abandoned you here? No horses or supplies?
For an awkward moment, no one knew what to say. Cassia was preparing to speak, but his patience ran out.
Tenlin wouldn't leave. I don't believe it.
You should come down,
Said Marion.
so we can talk more quietly.
The suggestion made him furious, but he brought himself under control. He turned to Roke, slipped an arm under his, and helped him down the steps. Illyrio remained up top, making sure there was no one else.
Shut it.
Said Velt.
But don't replace the bar. We can't stay long.
Cassia came up the steps, no longer caring about the cold or the water sluicing down her legs. It was all she could do not to ask what he meant, if he thought running was their best option. The door closed, casting everything into dark once again.
From the beginning,
Demanded Velt, his voice echoing down the staircase.
who left? I want names.
All of them.
Said Chisandrel, before Illyrio added.
The one still alive.
The captain wasn't satisfied.
But who? How many in the group?
3?
Guessed Illyrio, her voice frightened.
3.
Confirmed Marion.
The rest were dead. Tenlin included.
Cassia wanted to say that it wasn't the men's fault, that more would have died had they'd stayed a moment longer. But she also couldn't blame Velt for the mood he was in. He'd just learned his livelihood was gone, his business and the lives of his associates and friends. He wasn't trying to understand the situation. He was working through a problem that couldn't be solved. Velt couldn't keep his hand still, something between fidgeting and trembling.
You're certain you saw him die?
We all did.
Said Cassia.
The men saw it too. It's why they ran.
That's no excuse.
He muttered.
It isn't, but it's the reason we're alive. The fleeing men made for better sport. I suspect it was much the same for you.
Velt took a deep breath, but didn't deny it. She might have pressed for details, to ask what he'd been doing that prevented him from being there. But he was in no mood to answer questions. She'd already guessed most of it, and the rest didn't matter.
Damn it!
Shouted Velt, slamming a gauntleted fist against the wall.
Keep it down,
hissed Marion. The man scoffed.
I'm done taking orders from you.
Are you trying to get us killed?
He paused in consideration and lowered his voice.
You'd like that, wouldn't you? To make this my fault somehow?
Marion didn't respond.
That's what I thought.
He grumbled.
You got us into this, and it's up to me to get us out.
Cassia understood his frustration, and it made her wonder, why wasn't she more furious? She hadn't been close to the men who died, not like Velt, but she was confused by her emotional response. She felt pained, yes, but she wasn't a wreck. So what did that say about her?
We can make this work,
Continued Velt, with increasing stoicism.
You said all the creatures left when the cowards fled?
I think so.
Said Cassia.
Then it's settled. We leave now, before they return.
Out there?
Asked Chisandrel in a pained tone.
The only way through this is to follow my instructions. We've got a long night ahead, and anyone who's not okay with that is free to stay behind. It's your choice.
That's it?
Asked Cassia.
We can't discuss this.
It's not so complicated. We can't go to Karheim, so we go back the way we came, back to Wern's Hold. Just think about it. The roads were clear these past 2 days. No threats till recently. It's our safest bet.
Cassia frowned in consideration. When he put it in those terms, the choice was nearly obvious. No matter which plan they chose, there would always be risk. At least this way, they'd be putting distance between themselves and the creatures they knew were out there, the ones already hunting them.
Veld's right,
said Roke.
They haven't forgotten us, and if we're still here...
Valerial was incredulous.
Can you even walk?
Don't got much choice now, do I?
Said the young man with a grimace.
Actually, before you arrived, we'd been discussing another option.
Cassia jerked in alarm.
Elle, no.
Velt turned, genuinely surprised. The girl was confused and looked down at Cassia.
What?
She asked.
I think Marion's right. It's a good idea.
Not now,
said Cassia, shaking her head. She couldn't, however, explain the problem. Her issue wasn't with the ceremony, but with their present audience. Unfortunately, it was already too late. The man grunted before turning his scrutiny on the older woman. His eyes flicked to her satchel, where her notebooks were kept.
You know another path? A safer way?
Not quite,
she said, and clamped her mouth shut. Illyriel still didn't get the problem, and she wilted beneath the large man's glare.
What plan?
He pressed. She answered timidly.
To make an ascendant?
It won't work,
Interrupted the lady.
What?
Asked Roke.
Here?
Marion said
no.
At the same time, Illyriel said,
Yes.
Explain,
demanded Velt. There wasn't a way for the girl to back out.
Turns out,
She continued,
the building we're under used to be a monastery. And the bones for the ritual, the bones of ascendancy, Marion's had them with her this entire time.
Velt didn't react to the girl's excitement. The man went quiet, his jaw rigid. Moreover, he appeared genuinely disturbed.
There's no guarantees,
She continued.
Like always, the ceremony might fail. But we've got to try. I mean, think of the difference it'd make. We wouldn't have to guess which path was safest. She'd see for all of us.
Velt swallowed and faced Marion.
This true?
The lady groaned.
I already explained.
The bones, Marion.
His flash of anger was startling.
You brought them with you?
She nodded reluctantly.
This is why we're here.
He shook a hand at the woman.
My men died because...
Marion tried to speak, but he shouted over her.
You stupid, arrogant bitch!
That's enough.
Shouted Cassia.
You agreed to the contract, and you know the attack wasn't her fault.
He huffed and made efforts to regain his composure. Somewhat successfully.
Those bones belong at the Citadel. Do the elders know they've been taken? What the hell were you?
So you're saying what?
Stammered Illyriel.
You'd rather die? Who cares if Marion crossed some law? This might be our only way out.
That law is the reason Karheim has survived. The bones need to be safe, not just for us, but for future generations. So few remain. Who are we to speak for the gods? To even think such a thing borders on blasphemy.
Just drop it.
Said Cassia.
It's unlikely to work, even if we tried.
This made everyone pause. Cassia was worried Illyriel would keep arguing, but instead, it was Marion who broke the silence.
I'm sorry if I've offended you. If you're in such a hurry, we won't keep you any longer.
The captain gaped in disbelief. Marion pushed on.
You said it was our choice, didn't you? So let's end it at that.
I'm to just walk away and overlook this crime?
What crime? I've done nothing to...
So you didn't steal the bones?
They were given to me. My name's on the lease.
Don't give me that shit. At no point have the bones ever been yours.
Maybe not,
She acceded.
but neither were the bones ever given to the clergy. So why should they retain ownership?
The church was founded by the gods. The organization's entire purpose was to champion them and ensure...
That doesn't make the bones theirs. These are Tellarians.
At this point, even Cassia was shaking her head, feeling Marion had gone too far. While, strictly speaking, her words weren't wrong, speaking a god's name so casually was highly disrespectful. Tellarian, to whom Cassia herself had been intended to be bonded, had been dead for over 300 years. Were it not for the legacy the 8 gods left behind, there'd be no ascendants, and the world would have drowned before Cassia was born. Velt's expression was horrified.
All I'm asking,
Continued the woman,
is why not give Tellarian himself the chance to refuse me? What's the worst that could happen? If the ritual fails, I'll gladly accept his judgment. I'll return the bones without complaint. However, if he doesn't refuse, if God himself grants me ascension, then who are you to question his authority?
For a moment, no one spoke.
That box.
said Velt.
Hand it over.
Why?
Asked Marion in a menacing tone. Cassia didn't like where this was going.
Why don't we...
Look, I'll return it. You have my word, Marion. I don't want it for myself. When we reach the garrison, you'll get your money. All of it, I swear.
You know it's not about the money.
She shook her head.
This isn't your call. Just forget our agreement. Though you failed to protect us, I won't file an insurance claim. Just leave. No one will say you had a part in this.
The man shook his head.
If it were only that simple.
He lunged forward, stretching a gauntleted hand. But Illyriel was faster. She snatched the box from Marion and raced down the steps, 2 at a time.
Damn it!
Hissed Cassia under her breath. But as Velt stormed downward, Cassia had no choice but to let her sister pass. The girl splashed through the water, leaving Cassia to stand before the angry captain.
Move,
he demanded. His dark silhouette nearly filled her vision.
You need to calm down,
she said coolly, twisting her knife through the air between them. It took effort to keep herself composed, knowing her blade didn't pose much threat against his armor. If she wanted to do something about this, she'd have to go for his face, and she wasn't convinced she wanted to kill. Velt was following his convictions, which wasn't the same as intending harm. It wasn't enough to merit death. The captain paused, regarding her expression and her stance. He might have been wondering the same thing. How far was she willing to take this? They stared at each other for a moment, listening to the splashing fade into the distance. The girl was groping blindly, unable to see much of anything. She was undoubtedly freezing, wearing little more than her thin dress. Velt leaped forward, catching Cassia by surprise. Her reaction sent her knife slicing forward, but lacking force. He caught it with his glove, and she felt the blade slide partially through leather. But he ignored the gash, set it aside, and sent his other fist crashing into her face. The impact spun her backward, and she caught herself against the wall. Chisandrel shrieked. The bastard hit her. He'd actually hit her.
Stay down,
he growled. She raised her knife, this time prepared to do more than threats, but he grabbed her wrist and pinned it to the wall.
Kay!
Shouted Marion. Her head was reeling, her movements sluggish. She raised her other arm to shield her face. But the strike never fell. Coming up from behind, Roke intercepted the punch and caught Velt's arm and neck into a headlock. He held a knife in one hand, pressed against the captain's cheek.
Roke?
Asked Velt.
What the hell are you?
The younger man tightened his hold, and the captain's face darkened further. Cassia stepped away from the wall and probed her cheek with her fingers. The side of her face was throbbing, and keeping her left eye open was difficult. Roke's hands were trembling. The young soldier stammered.
I think you should go.
After a moment's hesitation, he added,
Sir.
Think of what you're doing, Roke,
said Velt.
You know they can't do this.
Maybe not, sir. But you're the one who resorted to violence.
Damn it, boy. Do you really think?
He twisted, catching Roke's blade with his glove while shifting his balance forward and tossing the smaller man up and over his shoulder. Cassia screamed, jumping back as he crashed onto the steps. In her haste, she too slipped backward. Her palm scraped the rock walls to catch herself, but it wasn't enough. In an instant, her head went numb, surrounded by the churn of ice-cold water. Just as quickly, she got her feet underneath her and rose, dripping wet. Roke had landed on his back, the force causing the moist wooden steps to split. He groaned loudly and made no move to stand. Cassia's hood had fallen back, leaving her hair plastered to her head and caught on her leather pauldrons. At some point, she'd dropped her knife. She looked up, expecting Velt to come for her next, but she found him just standing there, staring at Roke with bewilderment. He harbored protective feelings for the boy, and never wished for this outcome. But while the fight appeared to have left him, she drew another blade just to be safe. She widened her stance and clenched her jaw, to make it clear she wouldn't make this easy for him. By then, Illyriel had either found a hiding place or gotten so far they could no longer hear her. With each labored breath, Cassia felt her shirt cling tight to her skin beneath her leather cuirass. Despite her greatest efforts, she couldn't keep from shivering.
I won't be part of this,
he bellowed.
You want to play with the abyss? You're gonna mess with the gods? The dead friggin' gods? Then fine. Go damn yourselves for all I care.
He turned and stormed up the stairs. Near the top, he paused.
Come on, Roke. Let's go.
The young man groaned, but didn't get up.
You want to live, don't you?
Velt exhaled in frustration.
I didn't want things to go this way. And I apologize if you're hurt.
Roke met Velt's eyes and clenched his teeth. The captain stormed down the steps and grabbed the boy's shirt.
I said, let's...
Get off me!
Roke shrieked, jerking the other way, and whimpering at the pain that followed. Velt let the boy drop, none too gently. He stomped back to the door and swung it open. His face was livid as he turned back one final time, settling his gaze on Marion and her speechless daughter.
Whatever comes of this, it's on you, Marion. You hear me? The boy's your responsibility, so you best think hard what you mean to do here.
And with that, he turned and let the door slam behind him. The Nightmare Throne by Austen Lynn Clarke releases September 27th everywhere books are sold. You can pre-order it right now on Amazon in standard hardcover, paperback, ebook, as well as the audiobook you've already started listening to. The printed version features 50 illustrations produced by the author himself, including chapter headers, full-page artwork, and a double-page map in black and white. Furthermore, from right now until September 27th, a special deluxe full-color edition is available for purchase on Kickstarter. This includes the same 50 illustrations printed in color, as well as a dust jacket, custom end papers, sprayed edges, and alternate artwork printed along the case laminate, featuring both sisters on opposite sides. This version will be signed and numbered by the author in the order of Kickstarter backer number. That way, people who pledge earlier will receive a lower and more collectible number. Just search for The Nightmare Throne by Austen Lynn Clarke. Or check the show notes of this podcast for the relevant links.